Hi Vinas, this is Dr. Srikanth from Team MDS Conquer. Now we'll be talking about thyroid gland diagnosis. The main aspect why I have included this particular topic as a video is if you see the recent question papers, there are more questions, particularly from the basic subjects, that is the first year, second year, and third year BDS oriented subjects. You have more case based questions. Okay, so to build that idea of creating mind maps for each and every case so that you can handle these questions in most simplest way and come out with 100% accuracy, we are trying our best to change your mind approach. So this is a video which is made in such point of view. So as you know, the basic anatomy of thyroid gland, which is covered in your anatomy. So as already mentioned you that general surgery will include most of the things which are in the zone of head and neck. So as you know that the thyroid is in the zone of neck and is the most common area of focus for the paper setters. So coming to this thyroid gland diagnosis, the first aspect that you need to focus when they talk about the case-based approach is age of the patient. So age of the patient is going to give some idea. For example, if you talk about the simple goit, which is most common in the females approaching the puberty, that is, it's most common in the teenagers. And you may have a basic background of etiology as epidemic, okay, epidemic areas where they are deficient with iodine as a most common history associated with this particular disorder. Apart from this, there may be other etiologies like goitrogens or a problem, okay, dysharmonogenesis as some more etiologies related to the simple goit. When you come to the next level, that is multinodular or solitary nodular goit, these are most commonly seen in 20s and 30s. And when you talk about the carcinomas, okay, most of the carcinomas they see in elder patients, okay, above the middle age. But an exception to be made and noted, even you can make a note that the papillary carcinomas can be seen in the young age girls, whereas your follicular carcinomas can be seen in the middle-aged women, whereas the point to be make a note that your anaplastic carcinomas are most commonly seen in the old individuals. So in the question, in the description, they may mention the patient age. That is going to give an idea about the diagnosis. Okay, so always make a note when you have a diagnose based questions, make sure, okay, you just check the options. You just check the options after reading 2 lines of question. Okay, so after, okay, a is of 18 year female, okay, a resident of this particular area in and around the zone of Himalayas. These are the first 2 lines. Okay, once you see these 2 lines, once you're done with the 2 lines, two or three findings, make sure you go back to the options. You see options, because if you don't keep your options in the mind and if you're searching for a diagnosis, it's going to be a tricky case, because you don't know the diagnosis. You need all investigations expected. But if you have 4 options, 4 disorders in front, and if you start digging the symptoms, signs and investigations, it is very easy to come to a conclusion that this is going to be the best option. So please do practice that when you take your exams, and please do practice that when you do your final exam too. So the next comes is the gender of the patient. Okay, so when I'm talking about thyroid swellings or thyroid gland disorders, most of the thyroid gland disorders, most of the thyroid gland, most of the contents, most of your questions, it will be a female patient. Okay, thyroid disorders are most commonly seen in the female patients, and the questions will be a female patient. So if you have a thyroid based diagnosis, okay, then the question clearly mentions it's a female, then you can easily conclude that, okay, this is more related to thyroid neck swelling. Okay, so make a note that most of the thyroid disorders or thyroid swellings will be in the female. The next comes is the occupation of the patient. Okay, so the occupation of the patient is not that important, but the prime underlying cause related to the occupation is stress and strain. Okay, stress and strain is one of the prime cause for occurrence of thyroid disorders. So coming to the place of residence, the residence of the patient, as already discussed in the questions. Okay, there are many questions for the medical students as well as for you. It's clearly mentioned that they are going to give the area. Okay, for example, near Rocky Mountains. Okay, Rocky Mountains or Himalayas or any other areas, they have a deficiency of iodine. Okay, that may lead to some thyroid disorder, so that you can add the geographical distribution. If any geographical distribution is mentioned in the question, okay, then it's going to give some your occupation. For example, if you talk about syphilis questions, if you talk about a syphilis question, okay, either they're going to give the occupation of the patient. For example, is a highway lorry driver. Okay, so it's going to give some sort of hint, and may have unprotected sexual intercourse with the commercial sex worker. So the commercial sex worker, a lorry driver, a highway lorry driver. So this occupation is going to give some sort of hint, okay, about the diagnosis also. Similarly, the area where they live is going to give some sort of diagnosis, because few areas are particularly prone to few endemic diseases, right? So that's what the area, if an area or a specific place is mentioned in the question, okay, then you can think of. For example, if it is a COVID-19 related question, okay, so they may mention China, okay, they may mention near to the wet market. Okay, such description can be given for the diagnosis approach. Okay, the next comes is the swelling. Okay, as you know that the swelling is seen in the neck. Okay, so when you're taking history or when you're talking in the particular question, they may mention about the onset of swelling, when the swelling has started, duration of the swelling, okay, how much time the swelling, so whether it's a chronic swelling or an acute swelling, and rate of growth, how fast it is growing. It's growing suddenly, it's growing slowly. So all these are going to give some sort of information for you, and they may talk about pain, but make a note that the most 95% of cases of your thyroid swellings are painless swellings. That doesn't cause any sort of pain. Okay, for example, if there is a sudden increasing in the size and the pain of the swelling, then you can diagnose that there is some sort of hemorrhage that has occurred in the thyroid swelling. That may be due to trauma or something. There is sudden increasing in the size and the pain, then you can diagnose it as an internal hemorrhage. Okay, so upon which you can confirm it by using some sort of diagnosis. The next goes thyroglossal cyst. Thyroglossal cyst, the swelling will present straight away from the birth. Okay, so straight away from the day of birth, the swelling will be present. So that is thyroglossal cyst, thyroglossal duct cyst. Okay, and the growth of the swellings always is very important for the diagnosis. So when, for example, when you talk about the simple goiter, which is very slow swelling, the growth is very slow. Or when you talk about the multinodular or solitary goiter, okay, all these, they increasing in size through extremely slow phase for years. Okay, and there are few cases where it may grow fast, but most of the cases they grow very slow. And for example, if you talk about the carcinomas, papillary and follicular carcinomas, they grow at a very slow rate, whereas anaplastic carcinoma, you have a fast growth. So when they're talking about a carcinoma based question, and if the point is to differentiate both the carcinomas by just a growth, then you can make a note. For example, if they're mentioning a fast growth swelling, okay, upon which diagnosis or some test it was confirmed as a carcinoma of thyroid, then you can easily go for the diagnosis as an anaplastic carcinoma. The next comes is the basic logical difference between the thyroglossal duct cyst and thyroid, any other thyroid swelling. Okay, so if it is a normal thyroid swelling, okay, the thyroid swelling moves up with deglutition. When you take something, when you deglutate, it moves it moves with deglutition. Okay, whereas your thyroglossal duct cyst will move with the deglutition and will move with the protrusion of tongue. Even it moves with the protrusion of tongue. Okay, they can ask you why it is moving with the protrusion of the tongue, because thyroglossal duct is a communication between the thyroid gland and the foramen cecum on your tongue. Okay, on your tongue in the early life, and this duct will goes off. Okay, it goes off as age increases and it degrades. But in some cases, a remnant of this thyroglossal duct may remain, and that is converted into thyroglossal duct cyst. So whenever you pull this tongue, you protrude the tongue out, so this foramen cecum is going to move where the attachment is there, and your duct will, and your gland will move, your cyst will move. Okay, so this is, you can see this in most of the cases, you can see it in the midline, and it moves up with the deglutition, and it moves up with the protrusion of tongue. Okay, so this is all about the thyroglossal duct cyst. The next comes is pain. As already mentioned, most of the conditions are usually painless. When you will have pain, whenever this gland or whenever this swelling is become inflammatory. Whenever you have inflammation, I hope you remember the signs of inflammation. So whenever you have inflammation, you will have pain. Okay, so whenever thyroid gland swellings are getting secondarily infected, okay, you will have pain. So apart from this, few thyroid gland swellings, as they closely approach the nerves, they may grow in oversize and they compress the adjacent nerves. Whenever they compress the adjacent nerves, as you compress the nerve is a stimulus of pain, it may cause pain. Okay, so those are the two cases in which you can see pain. For example, if a malignant disease of thyroid gland swellings are painless to start, but in the lateral stages it may be painful. Similarly, anaplastic carcinoma, please make a note, anaplastic carcinoma is more known to infiltrate the surrounding tissues, particularly nerves, and it causes pain in the end stage. Okay, so these are the pain conditions in the thyroid area. Regularly, thyroid gland swellings are painless swellings until they get infected or until they compress or invade the adjacent nerves. The next comes, as you know, the thyroid gland is in the zone of neck, and it is in close association with the trachea, esophagus, some XYZ nerves. Okay, so as this structure inside the neck is increasing in size day by day, so it's going to compromise, or it's going to compress the other tubes, other areas which are present in the neck. So it may press the trachea, which leads to dysopnea. It may press the esophagus, which leads to dysphagia, or sometimes it may press the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is present in the neck, and it will cause change in your voice, that is hoarseness of the voice can be seen. So all these changes are regularly seen in the thyroid patients. Okay, sometimes the hoarseness of the voice is maybe due to the paralysis of one of the recurrent laryngeal nerve, and that is most commonly seen in the infiltration of the nerve, particularly in the anaplastic carcinoma. So this particular feature is more specific to anaplastic carcinoma. I hope you are done with the pressure effects also. The next goes is, most of your questions will move around the differential diagnosis or differences between the primary thyrotoxicosis and secondary thyrotoxicosis, or maybe the differences between the hyperparathyroidism and hyperthyroidism and hypo and hyperthyroidism. Okay, so most of your questions, for example, if you talk about the primary thyrotoxicosis, which is most common in the young patients, whereas secondary thyrotoxicosis, which is most common in the elder patients, old age patients. Secondary is more in higher age, whereas primary will be in the primary patients who are young patients. Okay, so the onset, the etiology in most of the cases for the primary is a gout or maybe a hyperthyroidism. Okay, or they appear simultaneously. Whereas coming to your secondary thyrotoxicosis, it will be present for a longer duration of time before the hyperthyroidism occurs. Okay, so that is the onset, the reason behind the occurrence of secondary thyrotoxicosis. Whereas coming to the symptoms, most of your symptoms will be calorogenic symptoms, means there will be loss of weight, the patient will be heat intolerant, and the patient will have CNS feature, nerve system features is present in the primary, whereas CVS features are present in the secondary. So this is the most commonly asked questions. The distinguished feature between the primary and secondary thyrotoxicosis is primary is more of related to CNS. You can remember brain is more important for exam. Okay, so primary is brain and secondary is circulation, that is heart. Okay, secondary thyrotoxicosis is most related to the signs of CVS. Okay, so they can give you the signs of CVS and they can ask you the primary and secondary. So if CVS signs are more, then you can diagnose it as a secondary. If CNS signs are more, then you can diagnose it as a primary. And the signs, all eye signs are present. Okay, diffuse gout and highly vascular. Okay, and the complications or obstructive complications are regularly uncommon in the primary, and they are more common in the secondary. So treatment is start with anti-thyroid drugs and followed by surgery or radiotherapy if required. Then secondary is definitely a role of surgery is more required when compared with the drug therapy. So that's about the primary and secondary. So I'm just going to give few more things which are directly taken from the textbook. So the most common sign is a loss of weight in the primary, preference for the cold and intolerance to the heat, excessive sweating are other symptoms that you can see. Exophthalmosis is often associated with this condition. The patient start complaining of staring or protrusion of eyes and difficult in closing of eyelids. Okay, so they will be difficult in the closing of eyelids. Sometimes it may compress or lead to the weakness of the muscles and it causes double vision or diplopia. And sometimes there will be swelling of conjunctiva also. Okay, so these are the things that you have to make a note about the primary. Apart from the regular differences what I have learned, these are the extra features that you have to make a note. Coming to the secondary basically comes with a long-standing chronic gout followed by the manifestations of hyperthyroidism. That is the manifestations of thyrotoxicosis lead to secondary thyrotoxicosis. So you will have more, as already discussed, you will have more CVS features. They are the palpations, you can ectopic beats you can hear, you have cardiac problems. Okay, all these are related to, and even you can find you can have a history of congestive cardiac failure may also occur in the late stage, and such individuals will have swelling of ankles also. Whereas your CNS features and eye signs are very less in secondary thyrotoxicosis when compared with the primary. Okay, so we are done with primary thyrotoxicosis and secondary thyrotoxicosis. The next comes, this is the most commonly asked question in your general medicine point of view. Okay, we may learn this again in general medicine point of view when we are dealing endocrinology, but right now we have to learn some sort of basics related to this. Okay, so what? Okay, most of you know about this. Okay, so just try to practice these questions with some ideology, some sort of background. Okay, so when you have hypothyroidism, the most important thing is there will be weight gain. Okay, when you have less, your weight will increase. Okay, whereas in the case of hyper, you will have weight loss. They will be thin. These fellows will be thin, and here it is thick. Okay, this is a prime important thing that you have to make a note. And hyper will have slow heart rate, you will have sluggish movement, you will have slow thinking. Hypo, slow, everything will be slow. They will be depressed, dry skin, muscles will not react fast, they'll lead to fatigue, infertility, slow. Okay, hair loss is common for both. Okay, so most of the things were slow. What are the things were fast? Weight gain is fast. Okay, menstrual periods are heavy. Okay, menstrual periods are heavy and weight gain is heavy. Okay, and other things, most of the other things were slow. Okay, slow. Hyper means low. Almost all the things were low except weight. Simple to remember. You can add few more things as you go deep into the preparation. Whereas this, most of the things they will increase. Okay, most of the things they will increase. Okay, so you will have a minimal menstrual period. Okay, there'll be these people are heat intolerant. Okay, they have they have moist moist palms, they have sweating increase, they have rapid heart rate increase, they have enlarged size increase. Okay, so you just try to practice this. This is an important aspect that you have to make a note when we are talking about your general medicine part of hypo and hyperparathyroidism. Okay, preferably you just try to practice this with a diagram or by imagining a case, so that it will be easy for you to diagnose and come out with the right answer. Okay, as of now, I'm signing off. Dr. Srikanth from Team MDS Conquer. And make a note that you need to finish this topic at your best. Okay, we have already posted a video on carcinomas of thyroid, and please try to correlate this and that, and make sure you try to finish the tasks which are given on the group. I think there are somewhere around 200 odd questions from that particular topic. Everything top to bottom has to be cleared by giving 100% importance. There is nothing unimportant in this particular topic. Everything has to be cleared. Bye, take care.